here while you're here, so we can maybe we can address something right up front. Yes.
We are probably, most of us are here regarding Kevin Mann's property, wanting to rezone.
Okay, so glad that you're here. We have an old business. I think we have some old business to discuss, but since we don't have a quorum with our select board, there is really not going to be any vote taken this evening. It's old business, and we'll just delay that till the following to our following meeting in February, to our next meeting in February. So if you're all here for that, you're welcome to stay, but I wanted to save you some time because on the agenda it's not down until about 8 o'clock tonight, and you're more than welcome to stay. But I don't want you to sit here and then 8 o'clock and say we're passing on it until our next meeting. We have to pass on. We have to wait for our chairperson to be here, and she's not here. Yes, ma'am.
Does that mean?
Would you stand up and state your name for the
Does that
record?
mean you're not going to discuss it at all?
That
I don't believe there's the intent to it. Our chairperson's not here, so without the four of us to discuss it, I don't think it'll be brought up under old business. It was there as a placeholder if we were all here.
All right.
Yeah. So apologies. This just happened within the last couple of hours.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. You state your name.
Sure, Cannabis, sir. I guess the question is, does that mean you can't really vote on anything throughout the night that you're going to talk about without the quorum?
We're a 5-member board. Mr. Spencer dropped off the board, so as of 3 people, we have a quorum to discuss events of the night.
Yeah.
Just not old
Yeah.
business?
Yeah.
We could discuss it, but there's no intent to without Cindy here.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, thank you.
Sure. I mean, if you want to stay, you're more than welcome. And if you want to bring up some concerns to us as a board, we can listen to those concerns, but there would be no action taken whatsoever this evening on that, just so you know. But we're here and we're glad you're here. So if you want to stay until the end of the evening when that is on the agenda, we can hear what you have to say. Yes. I have to take one more because I have to open up a public meeting at 7 o'clock according to the rules.
My name is Paul Gario. I live in the neighborhood.
Okay.
If there was a quorum and you were to discuss it, what were the plans to be discussed in the old meeting? I mean, we're going forward to rezone again? Is that the topic?
So I'm going to defer to Mr. Connor. Since Mr. Connor asked for it to be on the agenda.
Mr. Meehan has asked that it be put on the town warrant for a vote in May. And we were just going to follow up with that because not all of us were available when the topic was discussed and we invited the abutters. So we're just going to update the board on those discussions.
So all it was a general update. Can I just do a pause? No, I have to wait. I have to open up a public meeting. And I have to accordance with the law. So please let me do that first. And I'm going to defer. If this is all for Mr. Meehan, we're going to wait until the end of the agenda. Okay. So you're more than welcome to stay. Thank you. In accordance with Chapter 138 Mass General Law, the Bellingham Select Board will hold a public hearing on January 24th, 2022 at 7 p.m. in the Municipal Center Arcan Meeting Room on the application of Bayavari Inc. DBA. I may have said that wrong. I apologize. Penguin Convenience Store, Bharat Patel, manager, for the transfer of the package store all alcohol license from VB Beer and Wine Inc. DBA Penguin Convenience Store. I'm going to really mess this one up. With Meccan Demurar S. Patel, manager, premises located at 829 South Main Street. Donald F. Martinez, Vice Chair, Bellingham Select Board. Dennis?
So do we have the applicant here or the applicant's attorney?
The applicant's attorney is here, members of the board. Attorney Tom Truax of Salem, Massachusetts. I'm appearing on behalf of the proposed transferee. With me, I see on the screen is Mr. Bharat Patel. His microphone's not on, but that's all right. He's muted right now. He is the proposed license manager as well as being the corporate officer of the transferee corporation. The underlying transaction is fairly straightforward. It's an asset purchase and sale. It's a purchase of the assets of the business known as Penguin Convenience Store, which includes the package store license for a purchase price of $235,000. copies of the purchase and sale agreement and the bank statements and financial records, I believe, were also included in the submittals that I sent to the board. As for Mr. Patel's experience, you can see he's working at the store right now. He's been working there since November to get experience in terms of the package store business. But for the past 17 years, he's been a hotel manager. While hotel is not a package store, his management experience certainly translates to any business, which includes a package store. In addition, the hotels that he did manage for those 17 years, the two of them, they had full bar service. So he is very familiar with carding requirements and dealing with alcohol being served. Again, as I mentioned, he's been working there at the store since November. So he certainly now has 3 months of package store experience under his belt. When I asked him about carding requirements, because I know that's the biggest and most important thing with dealing with a package store, his first answer was he cards everyone. And that was a good answer to hear from him without any prompting on my part. He is familiar with the carding requirements, as I said. I also gave him my typical speech when I deal with clients in package stores or alcohol, full liquor licenses, full liquor stores. Don't just rely on the card that's given to you. Make sure you match up who's in that card with the person that's in front of you, so that if you have a person that's 6'2" in front of you, but the card says it's only 5'1", you know you got a problem. I also spoke with him about the fact that you try under Massachusetts law to try only accept certain licenses, namely mass driver's licenses, mass package store, liquor license IDs, mass IDs, U.S. passports, and military IDs. So I think the store will be in good and capable hands when he takes over. As for the store operations will pretty much remain the same, maybe a general cleanup of the store. But as for hours, the hours will remain the same, and there are no proposed changes to the physical structure of the store, so that will remain the same. And he and I would both be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Little board, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. I think it's straightforward. I've been in that establishment. It's right down the street from my house. So I've seen Mr. Patel working there. So no questions.
Mr. Bonner?
Just a thought, we have had liquor license violations in the past, but we've stipulated that card readers be installed, and given that this is a transfer of license, I think it's a policy going forward that any new or transferred licenses should have to adopt the technology to scan the licenses to open the cash register.
That's something that we had voted and approved, or?
It's a policy of the board. So as Mr. Connor said, it is for violators in the past, but if you're going to do something like that, I would think you'd give them a period of time to go ahead and
To adopt the policy.
Mr. Patel, are you okay with us asking you to put in the device, electronic reader, to read the identification, make your life a lot easier?
He doesn't.
He's on mute, I believe. I can't read your name this far away from the screen. I didn't hear your name in the beginning. I do apologize.
There's Attorney Tom Truax, T-R-U-A.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's fine. I mean, I know he and I talked about that. I asked him if there was a card reader in the store, and his answer was he doesn't. There's not a card reader at the time. I know how expensive they are, so I would ask the board to give some, an ample amount of time for him to be able to take care of securing one for the store, if that's the policy of the town.
90 days. What do we think?
Let's say 90 or 6 months.
I think 6 months.
6 months? Is 6 months fair enough, Mr. Truax?
That's fair enough. Yep.
Okay, right. So we're
Adopting it now, so it would be as of July 1st, so August 1st.
And I can put it on the calendar to have him come back and
Document.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing I would ask is just the fact that the 6 months start when he gets approved by the ABCC, because they're slow right now. Maybe
That's fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions? for this is a public hearing. I open it up to anyone in the audience. Do you have any questions? No, okay, great. Okay, motion to close the public hearing?
Second, so moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Motion. to approve
Motion,
the
yep,
transfer of
motion to
license,
approve the transfer of license.
inclusive of establishing the card readers 6 months post
After.
ABCC approval.
You first, second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. 3-0.
Good luck.
Good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
All right, take care. All right, next on our agenda, continued public hearing. It's set for 7:10 PM. We're a couple of minutes late. A petition for National Grid for plan number 300970044 to replace poles P2 and P4 with 40-foot/2 JO and install new P3 40-foot/2 JO pole on Lawrence Street. Plan number 303-78320 to relocate P13-60 approximately 15 feet northeast on Pulaski Boulevard. Are the folks from National Grid here?
Yes, Al Galvin, design engineer, National Grid. I believe I'm also joined by the engineer from Control Point in this on this particular job,
Okay.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yeah, correct. Reardon Hoffman, Control Point.
So the last time you were here, we had one of our residents, well, actually a property owner, concerned with I'm not sure what the guide wire. Yeah, take up a parking space. Have you been able to accommodate the property owner?
Yes, we have. So I was able to touch base with the Mr. Murray, I believe that was his last name, and we were able to work around a new design which would keep the pole and the anchor in its current position and not impact its parking spaces.
Great. Is Mr. Murray here? He was planning on being here this evening. Anybody heard from him? I don't see him either.
I talked with him and he confirmed the same, that he had heard from the engineer and that they weren't gonna have to move the pole and take it on.
And he was okay with that?
Yeah, he thought he'd come tonight, but maybe he decided not to.
Okay.
But I did confirm.
All right, great,
Yeah.
excellent. Any questions from the board? I'm good.
No, I'm good. We already
As long as
talked
it's
about
out.
We
this.
already talked about this
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Yes,
so
we did.
We're good. So I'd
So we
like to
can
make a
close-
motion, close it.
Close it first,
Yeah, I want to close the public meeting, because it was a continued public hearing for the petition for National Grid.
So
motion,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3-0. The public hearing is now closed. And now a motion for the petition for National Grid.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, 3-0, motion carries. We're good.
Thank you for accommodating
Thank
the
you.
resident.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we are a few minutes ahead of schedule.
Yeah, I don't know if the Rileys and the Clinks are here.
Riley?
Yep.
You come have a seat right up there.
Yeah, if the Rileys and the Clinks could please come up here at the desk, that would be great. Thank you.
Can I have the other residents involved?
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you want to just grab some extra chairs.
Sure.
I've got one there.
You got one?
Would you please state your name for Lori? Danny, state your name, please,
Jason Converse,
and your address.
87 Thomas Street.
Okay, sir.
Michael Wiley, 79 on Street.
Okay.
And I'm David Klink, I'm at 44 Thompson Street.
Okay. So we have all received information,
Yep.
but if you could bring us all up to speed as to the reason why you're here this evening.
More or less two major reasons.
Okay.
Severe beaver problem down on that street, been going on 8 years now. And
Can I just pause you for a second? If you're comfortable, you can remove your mask if you're comfortable with one another so that we can hear you. We're okay with it on this end. Hey, long time.
I know, I'll leave mine on.
Okay, that's fine. It's your personal preference.
The second thing is safety issue with speed of traffic.
Okay.
We've been trying to get these problems addressed and don't know where to go.
You want me to talk about the speeders?
Sure,
Jason,
you're more than
I don't think you've
welcome
heard
to.
Jason's.
Yeah, so I've been there now for about 6 years.
Mhm.
Speeders have been a problem since I moved in, and I see it starting from the last stop sign at Weathersfield and Donner. It's like you go stop sign, with no cross streets, and then of course come up to Weathersfield, where there's that cross street. Once they break through there, like literally, they're like on the pedal. My daughter's 5, she's on the spectrum, which that's not the major thing, because I have fenced off my yard like a barricade. The problem I have is like, just for instance, this past summer, I heard yelling out in the road, so I shut my lawnmower off to find out that there was a neighbor, probably I'd have to say mid-40s, that was threatening 3 kids on bikes because he was flying down the road. One of them must have made a gesture, like slow down. He slammed his brakes on. It was almost a fist fight. I had to tell the guy to beat it. He almost then threatened me. And I've gone as far as called safety officer like 3 times, haven't gotten through. So I took justice and I called a friend. We all know Don. I know a lot of people.
Yeah.
We know each other a little bit. He had a police officer sit in my driveway for literally a half hour. The first person he pulled over was my next door neighbor. The second person he pulled over, and he pulled over 25 cars within a half hour. I mean, and it was bad.
Yeah.
And I know it's marked at a 20, maybe it's illegally marked. I don't know if you can
Yeah,
legally mark it
the
at
speed
20.
limit
It
is
is
30
illegal.
actually.
Yeah, so it's tough to be a cop these days because where's the buffer? 10 miles an hour, we're 40 miles an hour on that road.
Yeah.
It's too fast.
It would be wonderful if people actually broke.
And I don't-
rules now.
yeah.
I understand. Yeah.
You know,
You're
so,
speaking to the choir here when it comes to speed.
and I take my daughter out religiously. We go up, take the big loop, all around, we pop back out on the horseshoe. And I met David one day, we were talking, he then informed me that the first year he lived at the house, his dog got hit by a car and got killed. So we were kind of talking, like, while we're talking, sure enough, speeder came down, he mentioned like, hey, slow down, they just sped up. I'm
A resident that lives on Cotton Street.
Yeah, and I've been in multiple like times, like slow down, without being my dad when I was a kid saying slow down. But
Yeah.
I see they have a stop sign at Bruce. They have a stop sign at Lisa Ann, which has redirected the traffic. They don't want to deal with 3 stop signs. So where's the easy way of going? Let's go left and fly down. And it's like, if you look at the log, my wife has called, I've called.
Now, there's no question that you've called.
Yeah,
And I think speed, we can look at several streets in the town of Bellingham where traffic is much too fast. Center Street, Maple Street, a number of these roads, they just drive way too fast. And one of the challenges, I'll just say, because being a resident in this town for 30+ years and living on Maple Street, which is a scenic road, and then has now become, if you've traveled Maple Street, you know what that's like. It's been a challenge. It is a challenge. One of our biggest challenges are, what do we do? If we have a posted speed limit, actually, in information that I received from DPW director, in some sections it's 25, in other sections it's 30. So what do? We can post new signs.
so funny you say that. What do you do? And I looked into it.
Yeah.
What's legal, what's not legal.
Yeah.
The only thing you can really do is maintain the course. Put one at our bend.
Yeah.
Put one at Horseshoe and put one at Sunset. Because if you're gonna do it there to deter traffic, keep the flow going until the end of the road. I know it's a pain in the butt for anyone that might be sitting there or myself to
You say
stop.
put what?
Stop signs.
Stop signs and all those.
Yeah.
Because you don't need a cross street, clearly, because they did it at Bruce, no
Yep.
cross street. So put one at our bend. Put one at Sunset, which if anyone has ever driven down the road, Sunset is a really bad turn over a small section of a bridge. And I don't want to have the conversation, have someone gets hit.
Right.
So you can't put a speed bump. You can't put a slow,
No.
there's an autistic kid on the road, put 3 more stop signs. Done. I mean, I'll pay for them if I have to.
No,
But I
no,
think
it's
that
not a
will,
matter of that.
that way you can't generate enough speed in between, whether you're late for work, whether you're rushing to go to a baseball game in the afternoon. With 3 more stop signs there, you're maintaining the speed from Nason to 126.
May I just ask a
Sure.
question? You just brought up speed bumps. Is there some civil reason why speed bumps wouldn't be a potential option.
You don't put them on main roads,
Yeah.
on town roads.
You
I'm
really
sorry?
can't put them on.
You don't put them on town roads. I'll put them on private property,
Private
like a
property.
condo complex, but you don't, you can put them in the parking lot of Home Depot.
There are.
You
I do
can
know
legally,
of-
but.
I do know of scenarios where they actually have done it in probably in other towns in Massachusetts. So Weston, for example, Lincoln Street in Weston probably has about 8 in the course of a mile. And that's a road that basically runs adjacent to 128. I know that because I work in Waltham and I drive it pretty much every day.
Yeah. We've talked about this.
Yeah,
in the
we've
past,
actually discussed it with our town council, because there are a few streets that are cut-through streets in South Bellingham as well, Elbow Street and Pleasant Street, where cars race around to try and avoid intersections. And the biggest issue is liability. If somebody does come flying down there and they don't know there's a speed bump and they hit it, and they go airborne, or motorcyclists. And that was the biggest caution that we received, if you recall, was a year or so ago, was that there's to put a defect in the road, which is essentially what you're doing. And that was the caution that we had. And I'm sure our insurer would have the same type of caution. So it was something I was thinking, the movable ones where you could bolt it in, like shopping centers have bolted in during the nice weather, and when the winter comes and they're plowing, you take it up, because that's always a big issue too. But we were cautioned heavily by council, and that's why we backed away from it, just because there is a certain amount of liability if someone were to hit it and hurt themselves. But we're struggling with this issue on a lot of roads.
And I looked that up, by the way, and like I said, I made some phone calls and figured out, and the speed bump option, I knew was not an option.
Yeah.
But the stop sign option is an easy fix. I mean, literally, it's like I said, you don't have to put it on both sides of Horseshoe. Put it on one side of Horseshoe and connect them so they're 500 feet apart, 300 yards apart. But it's one of those things, it's the only way you're gonna slow them down. I mean, and like I said, they sat in my driveway, and I watched from my kitchen, not like laughing, but saying, and he didn't write a ticket. And it frustrates me because that every single morning I drive High Street. And every single morning I see a cop sitting by the softball field, barely to the point I can't see him. Now, it's a scenic road. And if you put a strip down, a meteor strip to figure out traffic flow, my road, I guarantee you, is 5 times more traffic going down that road in the morning than High Street all day long. So why he's sitting there where he can't even see it? I mean, if anyone's ever been, and I know
exactly.
He sits back far enough that by the time he sees him, he's gone. I don't know why he sits there.
He's not shooting radar.
What's that?
He's not shooting radar.
But I mean, I'm not saying I'm poking fun or asking.
No, and that's understood. And I think the stop sign is an idea that we should explore a little further. I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
Whatever we could do. Hey, if it inconveniences somebody, they have to stop to prevent the child from being hit, kick and run the ball. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. And the cost of a stop sign is not inexpensive. We need to talk to town council. We need to talk to the safety officer, Sergeant Rolls, all right? And we'll talk with him and we'll get back with you on that. Because I think
I'm sorry, Don, but he just talked when you said that, because I'm not, me, I'm not making things up. I have reached out to Sergeant Rolls a handful of times. I know that he was doing a detail out in front of David's house.
Yeah.
And had a verbal conversation with, no problem, we'll address it. And nothing ever came from it.
All right. So I'll promise you this.
Thank you, Don.
I will talk, because I can get Mr. Rolls on the phone.
Thank you.
Tonight.
I appreciate
If
it.
I want to, but I'm gonna wait till tomorrow.
That's
All right? I'm not calling him tonight.
No, I don't want
guarantee
you
you that. But I will, and we will speak with him and talk with him about the 3 stop signs.
All right.
Can I ask a
Sure,
question?
absolutely.
If, in the meantime, while we're having that conversation, can we do what we recently did on Grove Street there?
Put the
Yeah, because that seemed to work for North Street in the
I've asked for
meantime.
that several times. I've called the police department probably about a dozen times. This goes back to 2019. What I lost to me effectively was a family member because of a young driver that was driving 50 downtown.
Don't you tell me.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah.
But in any case, so I had a very interesting conversation with Sergeant Rose. This was back in June, I believe it was. And he said his methodology was, if you were to send me an email to this address, and it was his email address, it will be addressed in safety meetings So I sent him one, I followed it up about a month later with another email. I followed it up with another email about a month after. I even went to the police site. Sorry, I'm trying to just reinforce.
No, it's okay.
We're just,
No, it's fine.
We believe you.
we're just like patiently trying to just see. Like, I don't necessarily know what the remediation for speeding traffic is. Generally, I'm not a traffic engineer, but I'd like, if anybody can help us sort of understand this and sort of cope with this a little bit, and I'm sure it's not a unique problem throughout the town, so.
Unfortunately, it isn't. Yeah.
Well, and what we don't want to do is do a traffic study on that road. Because
I
that will
agree, and I understand.
absolutely adversely impact.
They raise the
on-
speed limit.
It could
Yeah,
raise the
yeah,
speed
I
limit.
agree.
We don't want to do that.
I
Because
understand.
my guess is it would raise the speed limit. You wouldn't be happy. And there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. It's state.
I've actually called the police station probably 5 or 6 times and asked for a unit to come and actually stay on my property. You know, the question was, can we stay, can we be in your driveway for this? Absolutely, whatever you actually need to do.
So I'm not going to speak, I'm going to speak from my personal experience.
Please.
The challenge we have in doing that is that we have, one is manpower wise,
Understandable.
we are short on our police manpower.
Mhm.
And it's really, and believe me, and it's a very long town. We have a lot to cover. Bellingham's a very active town. It's very challenging for us because we've spoken with the chief many times about this. Where do you want me to put them, Don? You want them on Maple Street? Do you want them on Taunton Street? Do you want them on Nason Street? Where do you want them? I mean, it's a challenge to do this. So we try to do these other things like a stop sign or the lit sign, as Mrs. Grant suggested. Those are the types of things we can do until we can have a full police force of 32, which is really where we should be, or maybe a little higher, but we just don't have it. And I'm not going to get into a political conversation here. We don't have the individuals in this world today that are trying to become police officers. So it's a challenge that we have in this town. And it's a challenge we have in many towns, not just in Bellingham, but it is a challenge for us right now.
Absolutely.
We're doing our best.
Understandable.
So I like the idea of the stop signs, and we'll look into that. Okay.
Does this situation, and would you want just a child sign?
No, I don't. I would only put it if it was a deterrent. I'd only put it if it was.
I'm not sure what it would do.
But it wouldn't do anything because I ride, like I said, I ride my bike up on Donna.
Yeah.
And off of Donna, I'm not sure the name of the road, but there is a child sign up there.
Yeah.
And I was on at one point, Friends of Weathersfield, and I don't know if anyone else here is. And there was a window there that there was somebody driving a minivan. Every night, he made that page. They went as far as taking pictures, speeding around. They see the sign, means nothing to them.
It really is meaningless.
And and I saw, like I said, I witnessed from my window, 25 cars getting pulled over. Some of them were going extremely fast, and it's tough to be a cop these days. We know that. So unless it's like 15 miles an hour over speed limit, they're not writing a ticket. They're giving them a warning. But if someone runs a stop sign, it's an easy ticket to write. Stop running a stop, that's just neglect. That's like, rules don't apply to me. But speeding, you're in a rush. I get it, I speed. Not on that road, of course, but I speed. But, a stop sign is just another way of saying, okay.
Well, it slows them down.
It does slow them
It does, because I've seen towns where they'll have, and believe me, boy, this is a pain in the neck, I'll say it, stop sign, but I know why they're doing it. It makes all the sense.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Thank you.
So the other one, Beaver Dam. And do I have another public meeting, Hillary, that we have to open up? Are we
No.
good? That was
No.
okay. I just want to make sure. Thanks.
So which one of you three is the one that the beaver, it's
I'm the
44,
low man on
right?
the totem
Okay.
when it comes to the dam, yeah.
And you guys are across the street, the other
Yeah,
side of
across,
town,
correct.
okay.
But the water is backed up to across from our property, so it stays stagnant and stinks all year round.
I guess right now, the pictures we have and the inspection that was done, the culvert is clear.
The culvert by the pump station is.
No, the one downstream.
Oh,
I think
down
we have
by.
You have pictures of that. that was
Yeah.
taken.
Yeah, I do.
That doesn't last very long, like hours.
So I'm gonna tell you something, I know it's going against the grain.
Yeah.
But I have a ATV,
Okay.
and because of this time of year, without running it in the cold, it dies.
Okay.
So I went to buzz up probably about maybe a month ago, go around the pit, come home.
Sure.
And I got from the sand pit out to Harvard Ave, which goes out to behind Del Ponte's or Varney Brothers. I broke through the ice. The ice was literally 4 feet. The water was 4 feet deep. I submerged my bike and I limped back home. That water has now, those beavers that is, we always just thought were maintaining behind Depot Street and down parallel to Taunton, isn't the case. They're also now in that sand pit. They're eventually, they'll just keep building wherever there's water. Somebody over here might say, hey, we didn't have beaver last year, but now we have beaver. They cross the street, they find water, they can just, and if it doesn't flow like up in there, there's no place to go. For me, it's more mosquitoes, West Nile, the smell of it. For him, losing a 12, I mean, and I say, well, you're too close, but in town of Medway, where I'm from, there were houses that the foundations were getting swept away. And it was right on Loveland Street, and I'll never forget it because you can't, they're protected. I hunt, so I know you can't touch them. There's no more traffic, I get it, but they put a beautiful one up by the pump station, which seems to be working. But it is like 6 sections from Harvard Ave to 126. And I know it's hard to monitor them, but they're coming from all different directions, and the current is so extreme flowing through there. I don't know how it's stopping, but it's stopping. And like I said, this is more David's fight, because I mean, I know if I lost my shed with everything in it, you know, I would be not a happy camper.
So Dennis, is where the water is, do we own it or do residents own it?
That's the issue. We don't own it. We remediated the one on our property.
Yeah.
Near the
Pumping
well.
station.
And, there's a device, it's called Beaver Deceiver.
Yeah.
And it's-
Yeah,
You've
the
got
pictures, yeah.
pictures of it there. It's a series of fencing and piping, but the issue is going on to private property, obviously, and doing something like that on private property. You know, there's,
So
we don't have the right to go on somebody else's property.
it appears that, so just adjacent to 40 Taunton, just to the left of 40 Taunton, if you were actually facing that property, the easement is from the train company. And then from what I understand, if I kind of just use a bit of geometry mentally, the culvert goes underneath that. But then there's sort of like a half circle just shy of the culvert where the water pools up, that it doesn't seem that anybody owns. It says unknown, meaning like the database doesn't have any record of who owns that property. And what do you do, and what does the town do in cases where property is listed as unknown?
I know the parcel that we're talking about, we've asked the assessors to try to look into it to see who in fact might own it, but you know, sometimes it's property that goes back many, many
It's
years,
probably
and especially
centuries,
with
I would assume.
especially with the rail bed there. Yeah.
So is it possible that the rail bed is abandoned and that
Oh, it is abandoned.
it become ours when it's abandoned?
It's still under the control of, because those things have value, believe it or not.
It's like outdoor trails. And
Yeah,
things,
yeah, I mean, value to the rail companies as well, but, you know, I guess the direction that we can take, and I know, I believe Betsy in the assessor's office is trying to make contact with someone, but, from the rail company, but the tough part is, even if you do make contact, I don't know.
Who do you talk to?
Yeah, and
How do you get
how
through
you
to
gonna get
someone
them
that
down
wants
there
to
to
act?
fix, because they probably get thousands of these
Right.
things, you know, culverts.
Is there a possibility that DCR owns it?
Well, it's private property. Oh, you say DCR owns it? No.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, it's definitely owned by the rail company.
They own the viaduct structure that goes basically over the culvert.
Right.
But it's in terms of, I guess, ownership of like where the rubber meets the road, if I use that phrase, is it what leads up to the culvert? So the culvert is working. It's not like the culvert itself is
Yeah,
actually.
that's what I was saying. The culvert's working. now.
Culvert's working,
Yeah.
but if it's dammed up just before, so, I mean, I have pictures on my phone, but it basically kind of makes it sort of a strange triangle if you've ever seen it in person. And it's a very narrow area. But what happens is the beavers tend to kind of make a very shallow sort of damming with like leaves and mud and sticks and stuff, and it's very, very easy to sort of lock that up. Is that sort of where I say where the rubber meets the road? Is it more like what's right before the culvert? I guess I'm kind of looking at, if I go down there with some hand tools, I can clear it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that 4 hours later, that beaver hasn't come back, or beavers haven't come back and actually plugged the hole, because they do.
I've had a few people tell me they've gone down there. It's pretty slippery, so they.
Oh, absolutely,
they
yeah.
Felt it was kind of dangerous to even be down there. Yeah.
You do what you have to do.
Yeah, right.
Now, I don't have a timeline, you'll know this more than me, or you'll know this more than me, but I know that behind your neighbor's house, they pulled out 40-something. How many beavers? they
Other
pulled out?
beavers.
Back in, I think it was 2014, they had a trap in there.
How many they pulled out?
I was told 15.
They took out 15, and they even brought a excavator in, because the dam was so far across, they actually had to come in from the railroad bed. And they had to scoop it, and I'm wondering, that's not town property, that's below you guys.
Yeah.
Who hired that person, and why did they go there?
Yeah, was a licensed trapper at the time. It's been a long time, but there aren't licensed trappers that are easy to find now.
No.
I know that particular person doesn't do it anymore. Well, you could certainly hire him to go down there and protect your property.
I mean,
Yeah.
my question would be, is there any particular reason why I couldn't actually call a trapper in a private sense to have them actually take action on land that isn't necessarily mine?
Well, if you don't own the land, I mean, I don't know that anybody's gonna be offended if it's abandoned property, but, I wouldn't tell you to go and do it on somebody else's property.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the case.
A lot of those plots down there are owned by the town.
Yeah.
It's considered conservation. And there's 20-something acres down there.
Yeah.
You can have
And there's
property
one-
that you own that's conservation.
Sure.
Well, that's.
And there's one particular, I did stop in here, the assessor's office. That's a 1.23 acre lot that they've 14 years now that no one has been paying.
Right, that's the unknown.
Yeah.
Those aren't the types of properties that we want to take, typically,
That they're of no value to us.
Exactly.
Of course, I just don't want to do the wrong thing at the wrong time. You know what I mean? Obviously, I'm not talking about beavers, and I'm not going to go out and trap beavers, but at the same time, I don't want to make an impression on someone else's property. You know what I mean? Unabated and be fined or stipulated.
Because the device that we put in, I think it was like $2,400. It wasn't super expensive and it's very effective. It's just a matter of doing something like that on private property. There is liability there, and towns have beacons when it comes to lawsuits. I mean, everyone wants to sue the town if they have a chance to. So if we put something there and something happened to somebody, who knows what? But as I say, it's a series of fencing. Someone that's stuck in the fence, or
Is there some procedure for it? I can only think of like an RFC, or is there some way that you can make a posting to say we're looking for the research? I guess I'm looking for some way to kind of have some resolution
to find out
that
who
piece of
owns the
property.
property.
Yeah, I mean, not specifically for ownership of the property, but for the ability to put up some sort of abatement to stop this from happening.
To get permission to do something.
Yes, absolutely.
I know that the assessor's office is doing some work on it, and we can update the board at the next meeting to let you know where we're at with that. And if we can get you contact information, I mean, we would certainly
Update you as well.
do that.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that would be fantastic.
It's not so much the $2,400 to put the device in there, it's just doing it on private property. And
Yeah.
it starts a series of fencing, and you'd want the same thing. You'd want to make sure that you're immune from any type of
Exactly.
ability to do something.
I don't want to cause a problem.
Yeah, a child was in there, gets stuck in the fence, or, because as you say, it's not, it's a few feet deep and frozen or something, someone sinks in it.
I was heavily involved in the 2014 when it was Norfolk County mosquito that came in with the excavator. But the terms of there was, you get rid of the beavers, we'll clean the mess.
Right.
So I've been in touch with them. Take care of the beavers, we'll clean up the mess.
Because nobody wants to touch the beavers now. And the county is good about spraying. I know they'll spray, but it doesn't help with the smell or odor.
Oh, it's awful.
Yes.
Smelling gross sewage.
I wish we had more for you tonight, but we heard what you said, so we're gonna investigate, find out
Thank you.
who owns that land, and we will follow up with you. So if you can provide us with your Hillary for
I
the,
have it.
if you have it,
Yeah.
perfect.
We'll try and get a contact on the rail. I don't know,
Right.
the owner of the land unknown.
Yeah.
Maybe you can Maybe one of you guys can buy it.
I don't want it.
You want
Rather us buy
it.
a
I want it as much as you want.
Yeah, just any help, just the risk that I take is because my property is actually probably closest to the water as it breaks, is if it comes up to where my septic system's leach field is, basically that would ruin my ability, to use my options.
Understood.
Yeah, I mean, the shed is where it is what it is. I obviously would hate to see that, I have to remove the shed, but that really what keeps me up at night is the septic system. But I think it's close, but I mean, I only purchased the property 3 years ago, so I'm sort of new to this.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming in. We'll certainly follow up with stop signs and who owns or what we can do about that land and get back.
Our next scheduled meeting is in March, so we can certainly get maybe the second meeting in March. We'll have some information.
February
Oh,
7th.
February, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was thinking after the budget.
After budget, yeah.
Do you want to?
Yeah,
agenda for March?
I don't have
think
Super Bowl
February
on
7th
my
is too soon.
Oh, yeah, February 7th is only 2 weeks
Yeah,
away.
2 weeks away,
yeah.
so maybe the second
It's not
meeting in
enough
February.
time.
Well, the second meeting is the budget hearing.
Right.
That's what I was thinking.
That's why you're thinking
First
March?
meeting,
Yeah.
That might, we might, yeah, so we probably have an update for the first meeting in March.
We can talk to the county in the meantime as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you very much for coming,
your
guys.
time.
All right. All
Thank
right, take
you.
care. All right, next. Mr. DiMartino. Don, you on? I don't see him.
Yeah, bottom left.
Oh, there he is. Hi, Don. We have an order of taking that we need
Yeah,
to,
for Bertine Street.
for 13th Street.
And you do have some information there.
Mhm.
With regard to that.
We have,
So
Don
it's a,
provide us an explanation in a vote.
it's a vote to execute the order of taking for Bertine Street. You have the information there.
Yes, yeah.
Bertine Street,
Yeah.
the town appropriated funds to repair a retaining wall and there were some takings associated with it. So that's what this is obviously prepared by KP Law.
Okay.
And
Does
it has
Don have
been-
anything to add? Don, anything to add
Nope.
before we take a vote?
Obviously, it was approved.
No, the property owners are notified. They have been given the amount of the damages offer, and it's just a matter now of getting this voted, recorded, and then we can start going through the process of getting in the money.
Is there actually a motion on whether,
It-
I'm looking for it on
Yeah,
the
there's
document.
Nothing.
There's nothing.
Just make a motion to approve the order of taken for the relative to the Burton Street retaining wall documents.
Second?
We have a second. Any discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Nay. Pass 3-0. Good, Don.
Good, good work.
Now you get the rock salt.
Rock salt one, thank you. I'm just going through it here electronically. The rock salt one.
It says video.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling. Sorry, just give me a sec.
Don, is that significantly up from last year?
Yeah, it should say on the bottom of the letter. I usually put in last year's. I think it did go up quite a bit this year.
Yeah,
Holy cow.
Oh, yeah.
we were like 29.
Now, I realize that after a bad year, it'll be as high as $75. It's just random. It's a little random. I think the highest I've seen it is 83 one year. And it just, and all the prices are competitive with a dollar here or there. So it's, it is what it is. Unless we want to move everybody to Florida, a nice warm, no snow, we have to deal with it.
I move that the select board authorize the DPW to purchase rock salt for fiscal year 22 in accordance with the bids received in the cooperative bid number PW 463 administered by the town of Framingham.
Second?
Second, any discussion? None? All in favor?
No.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 3-0, motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, thank you,
Thanks,
Don.
Don.
That's all I got. Have a good night.
Great. All right. Mr. Mandel. Did I say that correct, Steve?
Stephen Mandela, we also have some folks in attendance here.
Okay, so we're running a little bit late. Thanks for your patience. It's 7:45. I know we're going to talk at 7:35. Just wait.
Yeah, they're gonna call a screen sharing.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Okay, so we were approached by Mr. Mandilli relative to the possibility of his receiving support from the Board of Selectmen for a host community agreement for manufacturing of cannabis material on our items on William Way. He does understand that that wouldn't require a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals, similar to the variance that Frozen 4 had received several years ago. And I believe we have a couple of business partners or representatives that will be making the proposal.
Hello, Dennis. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, Steve.
Hello, Dennis. Thank you. Thank you, Chairwoman McNulty and other members of the Select Board for having us tonight. I'm joined, unfortunately, I tested positive on Friday, so couldn't be there with you today. But with you in person are our attorney, Blake Mensing, and my business partner, Mrs. Ann Brum. And we have this presentation here for you. We had sent it out for the weekend, but we'd like to go over here with you in person, and then we'll be willing to take some questions afterwards. If that's all right with you, I'll jump right into it. All right, so we are looking to apply for, looking to do a host community agreement so we can apply for a cannabis manufacturing license from the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission. Next slide. We'll go over tonight, who myself and Ann are, our mission and vision for the company, what a manufacturing license entails. We also will go over how we will positively impact the community and our contributions that we've made to the industry and the Massachusetts market so far. Like I said, it's the Ann Brum and myself are the founders. We will go right into who we are. My name is Steve Mandilli, co-CEO of Joint Venture and Wellness with my business partner, like I said, Ann Brum. I'm a longtime advocate, consultant, veteran. I understand the unique needs of the Massachusetts cannabis industry. Where I'm a member of the Select Board in Uxbridge, I felt, like it would be a conflict of interest if I would go for licenses in my own town. So I chose the town I grew up in. My family moved to Bellingham when I was in 3rd grade. I lived there for roughly 16 years. Although I'm now a Spartan, I will always be a Blackhawk. Class of '96. Besides Uxbridge, Bellingham's probably the place I am the most. My wife is from Bellingham as well. Both of our families still live there. You all know my mother and mother-in-law that work for the town. And when I came home from Iraq, Bellingham embraced me with open arms and had my name etched in stone on the memorial in the town common, which I'm forever grateful for. And I will let my partner, Ann Brum, speak about herself.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ann Brum. I'm co-CEO with Stephen Mandilli, and we've been working together in cannabis advocacy and on different projects here since 2008. We launched a project called the Veterans Health and Medical Cannabis Project in 2019. And since then, we've been working collectively on all sorts of community engagement, different laws that we're proposing at the State House to create access and the choice for residents in Massachusetts as well as veterans. I grew up in Braintree. I'm a first-generation immigrant to parents from the islands of Portugal, known as the Azores. We spent a lot of time in the cities of Cambridge and Somerville, where my parents and family members would do what's known as festas or feasts. And we were doing lots of fundraising and creating access and funds to merge the Portuguese and American cultures in the 80s and 90s. After my father passed away in 2002, it's going on 20 years, so it's been a bit. but it led me into a career of healthcare and preventative care and end-of-life care and hospice. After seeing a patient benefiting from the plant medicine back in 2013, who was a nurse at the time, that led me into really understanding more about the plant and understanding what it meant to have the access and the choice for folks who are at end of life. So I've been in the industry now since 2015, and as I established a brand and marketing firm in 2018, serving local cannabis and wellness brands throughout New England. And thank you. Pleasure for the opportunity.
So we'll go right into the mission here of operating world-class manufacturing facility, supply the growing demand in Massachusetts for regulated cannabis products as a responsible and compliant licensed operator. So we're going to be doing cannabis product manufacturing. Like Dennis said, this is on Williams Way. It's on 19 Williams Way. This is our first step is submitting the application to the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission. And we can do that after obtaining a signed host community agreement from you. Our facility will be a compliant, highly secured 6,520 square foot building in the industrial zone. We'll be equipped with extensive surveillance. We're working with local contractors to build out our facility. And we'll also give preference to Bellingham residents once we begin hiring. We'll estimate a staff of 4 to 6 individuals in our first 6 months of operations. A big part of why we're getting into this is because of how much we care for the plant, and also the good we can do now that it is a legal regulated product in Massachusetts. So we're dedicated to being a positive addition to the town. We're looking to do the 3% of our gross sales given to Bellingham for operating there. But we also intend to help out by donating both time and funding to organizations that that we really care about. With food insecurity being a huge problem, we're looking to work with Loaves and Fishes Food Pantry to help end anyone that's having to worry where their food is coming from. And for me, myself, and also for Ann, who's a military family member, we will be in constant communications with the veteran service officer to make sure if there's any, veterans in your town that need help, or if their families need some assistance, we want to be able to help them out as well. So that would be our positive impact. But once we have the business operation, but we've been doing a lot before we've even had this business. Collective 15 years of collaboration experience with results. We have some people and projects we've worked on and worked with, including legislation and policy. Worked with Senator Warren as well as Congressman Moulton and many of the members of Congress in DC. The Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission, we worked with them too. I was a spokesperson for the SL4 campaign back in 2016. We've worked with many physicians in the state and across the country, including Dr. Stacy Gruber, Dr. Lester Grinspoon, and when we did our 2019 Veterans Medical Health and Medical Cannabis Study, we worked with the University of Massachusetts with that as well. Myself, I've worked with a lot of veterans organizations in Massachusetts. I've worked with Disabled American Veterans. And then down in DC, I've worked with Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. My colleague Ann has worked with Women of Color in Cannabis.
They're a nonprofit based in New York City, but have a nationwide reach in positioning women of color in vetted, safe places to work in the cannabis industry.
And like we've already stated, we've done the medical cannabis study in the cannabis advancement series to help veterans. And myself have worked with many operators already here in the state that are already operational. And then also these icons are here on this last slide, and you can click on them and see some of the press and recognition we've received over the past 5 or 6 years in the cannabis space. So now, go ahead,
You
Ann.
click on the date here for anyone that wants to have this afterwards. It brings you to the published article, and you can see and read and assess and be informed as far as our commitment in doing business the right way and setting up our Massachusetts residents with access to regulated safe product.
So thank you for your time and hearing us. The three of us would answer any questions you may have.
I'll just introduce myself briefly. So I'm a cannabis attorney, Blake Mensing. I'm a former municipal attorney, as well as having been a local regulator as a conservation commissioner in Holliston. So yeah, I only represent cannabis businesses and can answer any and all regulatory questions you might have.
Can you spell your last name for me?
Sure, MENSING.
Thank you.
So essentially what they're asking for is consent from the board to enter into a host community agreement. We have gone back and forth over the agreements that have been approved in the past by the board for other cannabis operators, cultivation, as well as the manufacturer unfrozen for. I know we're not in a position tonight to agree to the form of a host community agreement. I mean, we're pretty close, but I know some things that Stephen and I need to finalize with their attorney. But the question is, and certainly their attorney's here to have any questions, is this something that the board would want to entertain?
So if I could, I appreciate that Bellingham doesn't sell in town, but we have the manufacturing agreements. In the prior agreements, I believe we had arrangements for similar to the Loaves and Fishes, but donations to our DARE or school resource officer program. Our school resource officers run programs where they take students to local jails and expose them to the problems of substance abuse and other things. Whether you parcel out some of your contributions to Loaves and Fishes, I would prefer to see contributions to DARE and the school resource officers.
Yeah, that's certainly something that I've seen in a lot of host community agreements. Typically, when a town proposes a specific designated recipient, my response is usually to say that's totally great, because obviously you know the town better than anyone else. The ask I would have back is just, would that be counted towards the community impact fee, or is that a separate lane in your mind? And that would just be a discussion I think we'd have with the town administrator and the town council.
I believe in our prior one, it was separate from the 3%. It was just a donation. And at one point we had suggested $5,000, and I believe they came back, it was either 1,500 or a nominal amount, but it showed some goodwill and it also helped the students. Dennis will work out the details.
Certainly open to discussing that.
So you're only manufacturing and not cultivating and manufacturing. So you'll be bringing in product.
We'll source plant material and oil products, so product that we need to make finished product.
Okay.
So by other regulated.
So I have a question about regulation. Are you sure?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
So as far as the regulation, there's regulation over the manufacturing. Who within your organization has the experience? Are there chemists required? Are there there must be a skill, and who is that person, and where do they get? Is there certifications and things along those lines? Because I know it is all regulated, but I want to understand that you say there's 5% THC or 13%. Who in your organization is doing the manufacturing? Where are they getting their training? I'm ignorant to that industry. So if you could expand on that, I'd like to know more.
As a state requirement, basically anyone who touches any plant matter, whether it's oil or the leafy greens, if you will, they have to go through what's called a responsible vendor training program. So there are vendors that the state has hired to train people on regulatory compliance. I believe the initial plan here is not to be extremely sort of science, beakers and test tubes, that kind of thing. It's more of edibles manufacturing, so more akin to a commercial kitchen. And what happens is the testing requirements before you're able to sell it to basically another B2B customer you have to get, a certificate of analysis from a licensed testing lab. They'll test for pesticides, mold, heavy metals, THC and cannabinoid profiles. And if that doesn't pass, then you're left holding the bag, you can't sell it. So again, the initial proposal is to take sort of semi-finished products from other licensed cultivators and manufacturers and rely on Ann's expertise in marketing and branding to say, this product and this formulation of end user, whatever the experience will be, this is different and better because of X, Y, and Z.
So there will be no direct to consumer sales through our
Right.
facility.
We
That's
understand
not, they would be, the products would be made at 19 Williams Way, and then they would be distributed into the supply chain to other regulated retailers.
And the kitchen aspect would be regulated as any commercial kitchen would. You have to be serve safe trained.
I was gonna ask about serve
Yeah,
safe.
serve
Yeah,
safe.
exactly.
So the only difference is the addition of the one ingredient, and obviously the Cannabis Control Commission has the exclusive regulatory authority over it. So the state requires seed to sale tracking, as that name implies. Every product grown and ultimately sold to a consumer in another town that allows brick and mortar retail has a trail of breadcrumbs where you can see literally which facility ever had any role in it. So that helps with prevention of diversion. It also helps with keeping it out of the hands of minors. One thing I've advised clients to do who sell to a retailer, have a look back provision in the contract. If you're selling to someone in another town and that starts ending up in the high school, the manufacturer doesn't just say, hey, that's not our problem. You can say, we can terminate it. That's a cause because that jeopardizes their license in addition to the retailer who's not playing by the rules.
Question maybe for Dennis in your discussions. I think the previous agreements we had were ventilation provisions. So is that an issue here?
Yeah, not so much in the agreement, but the planning board heavily regulated that, or had a lot of say on that. I'm sure the zoning board, if this goes, the board were sent, it would go before the zoning board, but manufacturing presents other challenges that, the dispensary wouldn't, as far as odors go. So
Or
I know
cultivation.
that, yeah, I know there've been some improvements made since the first facilities came online 10 years ago.
Oh, technology has come along.
So that would be the biggest concern I think you would hear, or one of the bigger concerns that you hear from the zoning board is what are you going to do to make sure that residents aren't, so they have a business in an industrial park, obviously, so there aren't necessarily residential neighbors, but there are businesses up there that don't want to smell the product. We did have another cultivation, smaller ones and issues, and they did address it, and I think they did it well. And one of the construction up there, and the planning board had a large say in what needed to be done to make sure that that it didn't have a negative impact on the other.
Yeah, there's three
Well,
layers
this
of
wouldn't,
protection. Oh,
because
sorry.
it's not cultivating, so you wouldn't have the big,
It's a different.
the smell comes from the growing and the cultivating, not so much the manufacturing, because the end product from the cultivation is what they're using for the manufacturing.
Right,
So
actually,
big turkey baster bags.
yeah.
Right. And we're happy to bring anyone for a tour if you ever want to visit a manufacturing facility. You're
So are you
more than welcome to.
baking? Are you baking, like baking cookies? Are
So
you still
we-
using oils to bake cookies or
Think of that,
gummies
think
or
of like
whatever?
an oil that you use as an ingredient, it could be like chocolate bars, or a topical, or an inhaler you just net, like, it's, yeah, the formulations are really focused on bringing a product that both patients and adults over the age of 21 can benefit from.
Well, if this does get approved through the process, I think what the board would like to take up, would like, I speak for myself, but
Sure.
I'm interested. From
Yeah.
security, safety.
We have with the
standpoint, I
others.
see that. We have with the others.
Yeah.
Just one point on the odor control. So yeah, there's three layers of protection. One would be the special permit, which I'm sure says don't cause odors. The state regulations require it. And then the host community agreement would say it as well. Basically, if there is an issue, there'd be some sort of mechanism to say, hey, there's an issue. And as Ann suggested, the technology has come a long way. I live about half a mile from a 70,000 square foot grow, and I took a tour of that facility and smelled it when I was in the building, but certainly not playing in the backyard with my kids. So
Yeah.
it's a matter of applying the right technology.
Okay.
Are we looking for something to give you the go-ahead pursuant to, or
Yeah, I
just?
think what I'd look for is, we can sit down and hammer out we have the KP law template for the other agreements we put together. So what we'll do is we'll finalize that, get the board the proposed agreement, but I think what we want to know is that you're in support of moving forward with the
Yes.
proposed community agreement and understanding that the second step is appearance before the zoning board of appeals for a variance.
Would you like a vote or just a poll?
I think it'd be good if however you want.
Make a motion
Yeah. Make a motion to approve a host community agreement pursuant to negotiations by Mr. Frainan and town council.
Second.
Second, any further discussion? No, call for a vote? All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So we'll be in touch, good luck.
Thank you very much, members of the board. Thank you, Dennis. I'll be in touch.
Thanks,
Take
Stephen.
care.
Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
All right,
Since we don't have Mr. Soda coming in, did you want to do the recreational issues?
yeah, why don't we do that and we'll
Yeah.
wrap up the other thing, so for the folks that are here for Hartford Ave, rezoning, so we're gonna jump you ahead because we have a few other items, but we can knock those off pretty quickly and allow you time to get home to your families and whatnot. So I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Connor for a minute because he's the one that really put it on the agenda and you've been the one that's in most contact with Mr. Meehan. So maybe you can bring the board up to speed as to where you're at and then so that the folks know.
Sure.
where-
Forgive me, my back will be through this.
I'm okay with your.
So some letters were sent out to direct abutters, and the producers came to that meeting. Cindy, myself, Dennis were in attendance and in discussions that Mr. Meehan had proposed. I put out there that there really are 3 options for the property. One being status quo, which the houses look terrible. The second option was if Mr. Meehan wanted to pursue a path through the zoning board, which would require a 4/5 approval for any modifications. But in discussions I'd had with multiple people, that option gave the neighbors, in my opinion, more latitude to get more out of Mr. Meehan. And the third option was to go to town meeting and request that the property be rezoned, in which case it would be rezoned commercial and he would have more latitude or more leverage of his own. Mr. Meehan has purchased additional properties across from Mobile. He's given us some renderings, I guess would be the word, that across from Mobile, he was looking at some sort of coffee shop or other bank or some other option and is interested in his country store, gas station. The producers were vehemently opposed and shared that the neighbors were opposed to or would unlikely support that over the course of the last couple of years. Being extremely candid, it depends on where you live in town as to, I think, what people will view this at town meeting. If you're a direct abutter, it hits you right away. But if you live in the center of the town, in the south end of town, you may have the viewpoint, rather self-serving to them, is they just want to get rid of that eyesore that's in the north end of town. So from that end, if it is voted at town meeting, by the massive town meeting, it could be rezoned commercial, and that would be it. Unless there's other recourse once that goes to town meeting.
No, go before the planning board, but the
Yeah.
proposal would.
But the area would be zoned commercial, and he would have more latitude to do what he wants. Yeah.
I've been in on this from the beginning, and Mr. Meehan has not been truthful to the neighborhood, is because when he first had his meeting, he said he wanted all the land from 495 to Arrowhead. And then when we were all against it, this room was filled. He said, oh, okay, I don't want that. I just want this. The town wants me to develop this, but I just want this. So then we were still against it. So it went to town meeting because we were all at town meeting. It was overwhelmingly against him rezoning that.
It wasn't voted on.
We
though.
didn't vote it.
Exactly, it
Yeah.
wasn't voted on, but there was a lot of people there against it, and a lot of people spoke. Now, when he had the last meeting at the high school, Mr. Meehan said that since the majority of the people that were in there within 300 feet of the abutters, that if they were overwhelmingly against it, within 6 weeks, he was going to clean up the property and sell it. That has not happened.
Agreed.
And he keeps telling us things that are not true. So my thing is, if it goes to town meeting and it's voted down, is this the end of it? This has been going on for 3 years now.
I think Dennis could add some more color to it, but where it is an eyesore, I believe that if it fails at town meeting, the town can force demolition.
Yeah, we've been attempting to get the buildings taken down. That is what we'd like to have. Mr. Meehan wants to run the course with whatever the process is that he's going through. He will have the ability to put houses back there if he takes those houses down. He'll be able to get, as long as he does a certified plot plan where the buildings rest, he'll be protected from a grandfathering perspective. So right now, the argument that if he takes the houses down, he can't put another house up isn't true, and he knows that. He can. The building commissioner has indicated that to him, so they would be able to put houses back up there if they take those down.
He has
But
not
we'd like
said
to see
anything
the
to
rest.
us, but I think several of our opinions is he's leaving the eyesore because it is an eyesore. And it carries more favor with the body of the town.
So Kim Producer on 4 Sagamore Road, and I know one of the reasons that we're back here tonight is because when we came, what we wanted to do was, we wanted to negate any mistruth that the neighborhood was for this, that the people around it wanted it, because that couldn't be further from the truth. So we're not really sure where the folks, that run Bellingham, the town of Bellingham, heard that we were all in favor. We're not. And I'll speak to the people who were at that initial meeting with the local residents. When we were talking to Mr. Meehan, we were essentially trying to protect ourselves. If you guys were going to vote this in and allow this to happen, we were trying to protect our own personal properties.
We don't have a vote as to how this transpires.
Not at all. It's not up to the select board. One, it would go before town meeting, so the town would make a decision if it gets rezoned. So he'll petition at town meeting to rezone that land to commercial. If it is approved at town meeting, what Mr. Connor was saying earlier, we don't really have any say whatsoever as the Board of Selectmen or the Select Board. It will then go through zoning, it'll go through planning for what he's decided, and they will make it based upon his right to build or whatever it might be. Mr. Connor was saying earlier is that we could prevent it from going to town by doing a rezoning now. And if the rezoning, we'd have a lot more leverage with Mr. Meehan. We as a select board could influence the zoning, even though it's their decision, influence and get more for the residents. And let me just give you a little. So I said on Maple Street, and all of you are familiar, it used to be all fields, right? I've been there for 30 plus years. I knew it was zoned industrial when I moved there, all kinds of plans never got passed. So I pushed really hard against going directly across the street from my house. I was here and I was a member of the select board. And the reason I pushed so hard against it, because I knew it was going to happen. But I wanted to get as much back for the town and for the local residents from that builder. And then the other one, Campanelli project opposite High Street, which is now Amazon, okay? Again, pushed really, really hard intentionally. And a bunch of us did this because we knew it was going to go in. We didn't know it was going to be Amazon at the time, but we knew it was going to go in. But we got a lot more from the town. We got the $1.6 million for the town for that intersection at the end of Maple Street, Mechanic Street. Having lived there for as long as I have lived there, that is the best thing we've ever done on that street is that intersection. I mean, traffic flows beautifully now. So I think you have to think about what is it that you really want. You don't want a business there. You want to improve traffic. You have to really think long and hard. What is it that you want? Pardon me?
We don't want a gas station.
So what's wrong with the gas station?
Well, we got
Hold
three
on,
of
hold on.
them
Let me
on
just
the border.
one at a time. I just want to ask a
So,
question.
I live-
What's wrong with the gas station?
That would abut my property.
Okay.
And I would have to listen to noise constantly, 7 days a week. Lights,
You don't hear it now at the mobile station?
do I need to bring it closer to my house?
No,
I
okay.
don't hear it at
it's
the
okay.
mobile station, no,
I'm
absolutely
just
not.
asking. So if there was sound mitigation, and I'm not saying I'm in favor of it, I'm just throwing it out there as someone that's lived this
You
for a
can't
handful of
mitigate
years.
sound You can't mitigate sound from a gas station there so that I can float in my pool right next door and not hear it. You cannot mitigate sound to make my life.
Okay,
My
I
neighborhood
hear you.
worthwhile.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm
Well-
having a conversation.
No, sorry, and sorry. you're
And
right.
that's okay,
And I
because it's
apologize.
okay to be emotional, because I
Part of it
understand.
is, we keep going back to this
Yeah.
gas station that he wants,
Yeah.
and that works for him. There's other options for him to do something with that
Okay.
property to make his money back. So I think part of, maybe I speak for everybody here, but we don't need another gas station right there. It is okay to have gas across the street. That's all industrial property. That's all, there's a Home Depot there. There's, sure. And beyond that, I think is kind of swampland, right? So have gas stations, have it over there across the street. That makes
Yeah.
total sense. But to now bring gas closer to a residential area, I mean, I know it's close, but it's across the street. You're talking, right, it's double lanes, so it's 4 lanes away from me and everybody in our neighborhood, it's 4 lanes away and it's across the street. So why we keep having to land on this gas station, because that's what he
Well,
wants.
actually, I mean, if it
I
had
think
gone
that's-
to zoning, it could theoretically have been, the zoning could have approved it for a project other than gas.
Right.
That's never, ever did I get the impression that that was ever an option. The only impression we were ever given was that
That's 'cause-
he wanted a gas station.
Because that's what he wants.
He wanted a
Yeah.
gas station and that's what, he was gonna get a gas station. Like,
Yeah.
he wouldn't
I
propose
agree.
anything
I
else.
agree, and
He
we're
has
not
not
saying
proposed something other
that we
than-
want another gas station there. We're just trying to work this out for you folks as the best we can.
When just like these people came for the cannabis, the select board is often the mitigation force, the middleman for those discussions, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
When he met with us here like 2.5 years ago in this room, he said he's ready to the town, he's gonna say, we want a medical building here. He goes, well, that's not really what I want. I want a gas station. But I told the town it's gonna be a medical building. So he's lying to you.
I don't think he ever said a medical building.
He said a bank.
He said a bank.
Or a medical,
Or
or
a
dental
medical
office. Said medical or dental, or a bank or a.
Yeah, I mean, he did say that across from the mobile station, because he bought the 2 additional properties.
Well, he bought the additional properties after.
Mhm.
And with the current
They
zoning,
do.
he could do those things.
But I thought
I said,
that
in
in
the current zoning, he can do those things.
He can do
Right, the way
a,
those properties are zoned now.
he can do a dental
You can
office
do a
or a little
dental
medical
office.
building or something, right? Because he
In
can.
the footprint of
In the same building.
In the footprint of the building, right? So he could rebuild those buildings and he could certainly do something like that.
Because it's suburban
It's residential
business.
zone,
Residential.
so you can't do anything like that.
No, if you use the overlay though.
But the town didn't approve the overlay.
Yeah, no, the town did approve an overlay, but the overlay is very limited. It would allow a dental office
Right.
within the house.
Within the
Right.
house,
Within, yeah, so
Yeah.
not like a medical building. It would be
Right.
within the house with a shingle up that says dental office.
But doesn't the
Something like
town
that.
still have final say, even if it does become, commercial, that a gas station, doesn't the town regulate the gas stations on where they go?
That's the planning board, yeah.
Yeah,
But
planning
it
board.
could go, yeah.
So if he gets the property, the planning board can still say, no, we don't want a gas station there.
Yeah, if he meets all the requirements, it's difficult to do.
Well, let me ask you this, within 2.1 miles, we have Cumberland Farms, we have Irving's, we have Speedway, we have Sunoco, and we have Mobile.
Yeah.
And then a little bit further down, under the 3-mile mark, we have the other gas station that is right across from Dairy Queen. Why do we need that many gas stations in less than a 3-mile radius?
Yeah.
I mean, just in your opinion, why would we need that many gas stations
Well,
and convenience stores?
So I hear you. Traffic coming off of 495, either north, coming from the north or coming from the south, they're heading toward Mendon. And this major cut through to Mendon, Upton, Uxbridge, et cetera, as you know, it's, so why a gas station would make sense there is because we have a real problem with traffic, which we have people jumping lanes to get over to that mobile station. We have people jumping lanes to get to the Sunoco or get to the Speedway. If we had a gas station on that side of the road, traffic would be significantly smoother. We'd have an extra lane traffic would be a lot smoother in that intersection than it would be. So I can tell you where not Irving, but where Rapid Refill is. Across the street is where that, I'll call it the junkyard, but it's more good. I would love to have a gas station, another Rapid like or Irving like on that side, because the amount of traffic that's jumping over to take a left to get into that Rapid Refill causes a lot of congestion at that intersection. So from that point of view, if I'm a businessman, I absolutely want a gas station there, because that'll, to you, the noise, there'll be a lot of cars filling up with gas across that street, and they won't be jumping and going over to the Sunoco.
I live right there, and I
Yeah.
pass that through rush hour in morning and night. And once in a blue moon, they cross the traffic to go into Speedway. Once in a blue moon, okay? The traffic is not backed up for the gas stations. The traffic's backed up because there's one lane going downtown. The other thing is, I was at the meeting with the planning board, and that Hopedale and Mendon are looking to put in a distribution center right down that main road. Now, if Depot Street goes in with their distribution center, that is a major highway. If you add a half a lane and then bottleneck it down by Arrowhead, that's not gonna help, because now you're increasing the traffic to those distribution centers, passing more 18-wheelers coming right off the highway and straight down that road. And putting a light at Depot Street is gonna mess up that whole area there. So if you put a business right there, you're gonna have cars coming in and out like this. And last Saturday, an 18-wheeler came up Cedar Hill the wrong way, and then went into Meehan's property and stayed there.
Really?
Yes. And
Did you
this,
call the police?
no,
Oh, please do.
because they come up this street. They
Yeah.
come up that street all the time.
Yeah.
And then there's neighbors, 4 neighbors down on the right-hand side. We were emptying groceries out of our car. She comes right up the street the wrong way. So if he wants to rezone the front of that as a 2-way right there, if you can't stop the neighborhood and other people from coming up that way the wrong way, how are you gonna do it when everybody can go this far? Well, why can't I go that far?
No, I agree. I'm not disagreeing with you. You know, you asked me a question, I answered the
No, I know.
question, right? And I can say, and as you heard, I live on Maple Street, so I know what you're dealing with. I understand all the traffic. I understand the challenges that you have. Bellingham, as a general rule, his traffic problem because it's a cut through town, through Woonsocket to Uxbridge, up and off the highway. We're doing everything we possibly can to try to mitigate.
No,
But the more
we have
businesses are coming to town, we have to, and here's where we have leverage with these folks to help us. Like with Campanelli, they gave us 1.5, 1.6 million. That was a state grant, helped us. We're trying to help over 495 by widening that, because
That would
regardless,
be- you know what, if
traffic
you
is
did that,
changing.
that would be fantastic.
we're working on it.
Yeah,
We've been
state
working on it for
road
Yeah,
another
but
clear
year
now.
that's state, that's not,
Right, I
you
know,
know,
I
we're
understand,
stuck,
that's,
but-
that's the state and stuff, but that's why, if a business besides homes, like a commercial business goes in there, we're all looking at it, we're all looking at the lights, we're looking at the noise, and nobody wants to see that, and you're gonna add more people coming in and off of that road, and that's gonna clog up that whole area.
Yeah, go right ahead. 4 minutes.
2 things. One, I'd love to ask you where your house is in connection to Amazon and whether or not
A
you
quarter of a
deal with
mile.
noise or lights. So you're still a quarter mile away.
Not,
It's
not, well, they're pretty far back, so the lights don't bother me. I'm right across from Victory in that big berm. So when I look out my bedroom window, their lights are right in my house. I put vertical blinds throughout my whole house, and I replaced all my windows at $40,000, my cost to tighten. And now these are soundproof windows. I don't hear anything, but that was my expense. I spent that kind of money because I had nothing I could do about it.
So the town might expect that I would like spend $100,000 to put a dome over my pool so I can enjoy it in the summer. I'm just asking a question.
no, we wouldn't expect
I
that,
wouldn't
but
expect that.
But what would you expect? You would expect that I would pleasantly enjoy my pool when I hear people gassing up next door, yelling, screaming at each other? It would be pleasurable for me.
I don't want that to happen. I don't, and I put in 15-foot spruce trees around my pool. And I spend a lot of money around my pool, okay? So I could mitigate the noise of the tractor trailers and the jake breaking and all of that other stuff that goes on Maple Street. There's more than 100 tractor trailers passing my house every single day, and probably 200 Amazon trucks passing my house.
So you're right on Maple Street?
I've said it 10 times now. I'm right on Maple Street. I've been there for 35 years, and it's gotten worse and worse. So what I'm saying is, there's nothing I could do about it, and I was on the board, but we worked really hard with those builders to do something. And I didn't get one penny from any of those bills. All those costs I just said were out of my own pocket, because I love my home, I love Bellingham, and I'm gonna stay there.
I've been here my entire life,
Yeah.
so I totally hear what you're saying. I'm 54, I've been here my whole life. Part of it for me is, I think you could be fooling yourself if you think that Mr. Meehan, who's already stated that he's gonna have the lowest gas prices in town, is going to prevent people from jumping from side to side for gas. Because you're missing the human nature piece, which is, oh my God, it's 2 cents cheaper on the other side of the road, I'm gonna go over there.
I'm not here to argue. We're here to listen. All of this is very reasonable, because I'll tell you right now, I don't believe for a minute that he'll have the lowest prices in town. And the reason why, his Mendon gas station is one of the highest priced gas stations around. It's $3.54 a gallon. I can get mobile gas, which I did twice over the weekend, for $3.29. So he won't have the lowest gas prices, not a chance.
Just a macro comment. I mean, at some point, the state's gonna widen the bridge that was at exit 18.
Yeah.
And the only way that that bridge can be widened is if Hartford Ave gets widened to 5 or 6 lanes to mitigate traffic to go through.
Exactly.
And so at some point, the town's going to either be looking to take that by eminent domain,
Or Mr. Meehan's gonna give it to you, which is the town's benefit.
But that's not gonna happen anytime soon.
I would bet that that happens within the next 3 to 5 years.
I can see that happening.
If you listen to Mr. Soder, our state rep, he's working very hard, because that interchange is one of the most accident prone.
But even if you do widen it, that's fantastic. I mean, because that's what it needs, is to be widened. But the thing is, if he puts his business there, how do you see that is going to really benefit the town of Bellingham? If he puts a gas station and a convenience store there.
Because they didn't want it.
I understand that, but it's not it's not like a distribution center. It's not like a planned community. It's just a gas station and a convenience store. And when you're taking away a neighborhood, if it was zoned for commercial, hey, he's got every right to do it. But it's not. It's a neighborhood. We came to Bellingham from Las Vegas because we wanted neighborhood. We wanted a community. I didn't buy my house to look out at his property from my front bay window. I see his property. I personally would rather look at those abandoned houses than to have a gas station there shining light into my front window and seeing all that.
Well, I guess just to wrap it up would be,
No, I understand.
we put it on the agenda so that Mrs. McNulty and I could share with the board the results of that meeting. It's great that you attended tonight, and he
When
right
do you
now
think it'll
has
be
it.
on the other agenda?
Can I just, she's had her hand raised a bunch of times and we keep missing her.
Peggy Wiley lived in the neighborhood for 30 years from when it was built. I just want to address the comment about, let's take care of the people driving to Mendon to give them gas. It can make it convenient for them. There's a gas station in Hopedale, right on the corner, on the right side of the road as they're going. So the logic about let's take care of the people from Mendon by putting a gas station in Bellingham, when they can get it in Hopedale on their way home.
No, and that message is heard. I wasn't saying let's do it to convenience the folks in Mendon. What I was saying is it's a major cut through to people that live in Mendon.
Absolutely.
And that's what it is. And what I'm saying is it would be easier for them to stop there and fill their tank up than for them to jump over to the Sunoco or jump over to Speedway. That's what I was saying. I wasn't saying anything about conveniencing people in Mendon. Not at all. In fact, I'd love to be able to put a toll booth in Bellingham and tax them for driving through our town. And I've made that public many times, okay? But we can't do that, unfortunately, because it is a state road.
Can you help advise us on the right people that we get in front of to talk to? Can you help advise us on how we?
Town meeting.
I don't think there's
say
anyone
something
to
really
advise you
quick?
to talk to. I think it's numbers at town meeting.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been trying to say for the last 15
There you
minutes.
go.
Is that the bottom line is, if Mr. Meehan wants to put this on the town meeting warrant, he can do that. And so the right people that you need to get in front of is to get people to come to town meeting and vote the way that you want them to vote. Because it's not up to us. We only, every person on this board only has one vote at town meeting, just like you do. And now with the introduction, I don't know if any of you have been to town meeting in the last couple of years, but we have the electronic vote clickers now. It's very easy for people to come in and vote exactly how they wish to vote because it's anonymous. You're not raising your hand. So and as I think Mr. Connor had said originally, what you guys, I think, would be your biggest hurdle to overcome is talking to the rest of the town that wouldn't mind having that gas station there. Because those are the people that are gonna be voting at town meeting. Everyone has one vote. So those are the people that you guys would need to get in front of at this point.
It's very akin to, what's that?
You're not approved to go to the meeting.
No, it's already.
If
he
it's
puts it
on the warrant, it's on town, it's at town meeting.
Can't be stopped from being put on. He has every right as an owner to request his property rezoned.
You know, he has said at every one of his meetings, he doesn't want to be the bad guy. He wants to do what the neighborhood wants.
Yeah, well, he's changed his mind.
He's changed his mind. It's very clear.
And the town has also said, we want to do what's right for the community. That's us. We're all complaining.
Sir, and I did just
But
point of
legally-
order. You can't stand up and interrupt a member of the board and do timeout. There's a decorum here. So I please that you give the respect to Mrs. Grant by not telling her to be quiet. We're gonna listen to you. We opened up the floor to you to listen. You have to respect Mrs. Grant.
So the bottom line is legally, if it's on the town meeting warrant, then legally we have to vote on it and hear it. So, you know, we hear what you said, and I know you guys have seen me. I was at the meeting at the gym. I was in the first meeting in the library, because I don't live in the north end of town. I live in the south end of town. I used to live on 126, so I know noise and trucks and the like. And I would come to those meetings really because I wanted to hear from everyone and not just Mr. Meehan. But legally, if it's on the town meeting warrant, that's what governs. And so we have to allow that to go forward. So like I keep saying, reach out to other people that you know that don't necessarily live in your neighborhood to talk to them about your concerns and issues too.
What's our rights? Because since it was on the warrant on the last town meeting, and then he pulled it. And then they said that he had 2 years to come back.
No, I think he had to wait 2 years before
He
he came
had to
back.
wait 2 years.
Yeah, the reason he looked to pass on it as opposed to have it defeated was because if it was defeated, he would have to wait 2 years. But because it wasn't defeated, hasn't it been almost 2 years? now?
Yes.
So it's a moot point anyway.
So
If
if
he
we
wouldn't be
can
able
put
to.
it down again, then another 2 years. So
Can't come back.
we can be doing this every 2 years
could.
or as long as he wants to do it.
Until we can work something out amicably for the town, for the residents, the local residents, and for Mr. Meehan, absolutely.
Okay,
So-
so every 2 years. we
So
can-
what
If nothing's developed.
So what
Right,
Mrs.
if
Grant,
nothing's
was saying, and it's real simple. Many years ago, we organized through a few people, a bunch of people to go to town meeting to approve the football field. All right, and it passed. So if this gets on the warrant, which it likely will, and you don't want this rezoning, then it's up to you as residents to organize.
Okay.
and to show up, is what Mrs. Grant was saying.
Well, look at all the parents that organized people to come out for the 2.5 override.
That's right, a lot. In favor of the school department, because we needed to fund special things for the school
Yeah, I was
department, and we had to raise
I
money.
was there on that field.
And that was an override.
It's,
A
and,
lot of people, they were wearing red shirts.
yep,
We have
Sea of
about
red.
10,000 registered voters, and we probably get no more than
200
100 to 150 at a town meeting
Yes,
to
I know
decide on
that.
$70 million budgets.
That's what's really sad about.
And to be very candid, on another point, if it was 15 years ago or even 5 years ago, it's very uncommon with your neighbor next to you for you to raise your hand to oppose it and another person in favor. When you've got the clickers in your hand, no one's going to know how they're going to vote. So even when, you could have neighbors that live 20 houses up the street that really like, I really want something, and they vote yes, even though you've invited them.
Want another Dunkin' Donuts on my side
oh,
of the street.
stop it with the Dunkin' Donuts.
I'm just kidding. I'm being goofing around here a
Muffin
little bit.
House.
There's a million.
No, so we,
Someone that wants to say something.
Is there someone in the audience that would like to add?
Mrs. Kylie, did you want to say
No,
anything
the
too?
Hand raised, yeah.
Oh, top left.
Couple
Sorry.
hand raises.
Hi, how are you? Sorry, this is Mike Marcos from, my mother lives at 202 Hartford, which is the abutting property to the one that is being discussed. And I think one of the points that was brought up was, I think the biggest issue, or one of the issues that you had, was traffic and people cutting across into the gas stations across the street. And general question is, if that is the biggest concern, why not address the traffic problem instead of putting a gas station on the right side of the road for people?
That's pretty good.
Well, because that is the short answer to that question is kind of what we alluded to, the traffic problem and fixing the traffic problem from that area is going to need to happen. It's going to need to widen the road coming from 495 in order to completely mitigate the traffic, which our state rep is diligently working on. And there have been meetings had with the state about that, so that that is in process and on our radar, and we have people working on that. But
I guess widening the road is not addressing the people cutting across to the gas stations across the street. So
no,
if
but
that's the case, why not
widening the
address?
road will help the traffic.
Yeah, adding a third lane.
Okay. So adding a gas station there doesn't. So I guess the point was, if we put a gas station on the right side. Sorry, go ahead.
So I just want to be clear. We're not asking Mr. Meehan to put a gas station there.
Oh,
Right.
no.
Okay, I want to make it really clear here. He's coming to us. We're trying to figure out how we can do this best for. So we're not asking for a gas station. We're not asking for a convenience store. He owns the property. He has the right to come before the town because this is what he wants to do and develop the property. He's come to us with ideas and we're trying to work with him. We're not asking for another gas. I'm not asking for another Dunkin' Donuts. I'm not asking for another pizza place. We're not.
I get it, but I got it just in general to solve the traffic problem of people. One of the concerns that was brought up was people crossing over lanes, 2 lanes, to get into those 2 gas stations across the street. If you put a median or something in those, between them, whatever, east and west bound lanes, would that not address the people crossing over issue?
Not sure. I think people in general, I don't know, it's a state road, so we can't, but I don't know if that's, I mean, we're not, widening of that road comes with widening the bridge. We need to widen the bridge and change the exit. That's the work that has to be done. With that, we want an additional lane up to that light or even beyond that light, so the flow of traffic will be much smoother. So we're not having the lane jumping that's happening today. And the lane jumping isn't happening just because they want gas. They're jumping lanes because they're in the right-hand lane and they want to go into Home Depot. Or, that's where there's lane jumping everywhere. We're just trying to eliminate that. That will actually, engineers have looked at it. They've done traffic over the years. That will absolutely, extra will mitigate, a lot of that from happening. It'll be much smoother for all of us.
Would you plan on putting 2 lanes going downtown?
You mean from like the mobile up to the center this way?
From the light on
Dunkin' Donuts.
Going down 126 to turning
Okay.
lanes, because that's where the problem is because that lane gets backed up all the way. In my lane that goes straight, can easily like slide through a little,
Yeah, so
and
they're-
then it's all,
the plans aren't finalized yet. They will have public hearings on those plans. So once they get to 25% design, there will be some sort of a public hearing where everybody will be able to come in and take a look at those plans.
because that whole area was surveyed not too long ago.
Yep.
We talked to the survey. Now, is that part of the town, or is
That
that part
was-
of me and stuff?
Yeah, that was survey work that the town was doing, that Mr. Meehan paid for as part of the town's widening project up there. It was
But
on
that
his
was for that
property.
little,
We're looking at takings from his property.
right, but that wasn't, had nothing to do with the 495 widening.
It has to do with the improvements on Hartford Avenue, yes.
So with the 495 bridge being widened?
The bridge is at the state
It's a
level.
big
We have to do
Right,
our
no,
There
part.
are a
I
lot of
understand that.
pieces to it.
So you're talking about just, because Mr. Meehan said that he was just gonna give a little bit of his land up to go straight and then bottleneck at Arrowhead.
Yeah.
So that's the part that, all right, so that's the survey part that was
So
done.
I'm just
Okay.
gonna, not to be rude, I'm gonna stop the conversation here, because unless there's something new that we haven't already heard, we're happy to hear it, but if it's the same thing, just from a different voice, I think we've heard your message loud and clear, and I'm not being rude. We have other stuff, and this wasn't really planned, but we're happy to hear you. We really are. And anything that I say is just a conversation. I don't like traffic yet either. I don't want gas stations there.
Yeah. We appreciate your
Town-
time.
So wait, hold on
Yeah.
one second. When is town meeting? Town meeting is the fourth Wednesday in May. So start your organization now, because more than likely, there will be an article on the warrant.
7:30.
And it requires a 2/3 vote for approval. So that's a lot. But I can tell you, there's a lot of the same folks that show up that are gonna want some of this because they don't want their taxes going up. And that's what we fight with from folks too. They want business because they don't want their taxes to increase.
You said fourth Wednesday?
Yeah.
Fourth Wednesday night.
May 25th,
And it'll be.
7:30,
Okay.
high school.
High school.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Dennis, old business, Brian Norton, Conservation Commission.
Brian has submitted a request to stay on till, with the Conservation Commission, Brian moved to Franklin, he sold his home, he indicated to the board when he did that, he would like to, he intends to move back to Bellingham. Board extended him 6 months, as you know, a non-resident can serve on a town board with approval by the Board of Selectmen. Select Board, he has sent another letter in requesting
He said he's hoping to move back
continuance
to-
to June 1st.
He's like, he had to sign a 1-year lease. And so he's hoping to move back to Bellingham after his lease is up. So he's asking you to consider extending this for another 6 months until June 1st.
At which time he indicated that he would be looking to move back to Bellingham. I think Ann Matthews is here. I don't know if you want to hear from Ann. on this.
Ann, sure. Ann, are you on? Would you like to say anything on behalf of Brian, Mr. Norton?
Yes, I am on. Can
Thank
hear
you for joining, Ann.
me? Thank you for hearing me. Yes, so Brian has been a member of our board for a number of years, and I know last year that he had to sell his home. He was frantic because he couldn't find a place in Bellingham to move to. He wanted to rent, and he could only find a place in Franklin. He has, I'm having a little trouble here. So he has signed this 1-year lease and has asked the board to reconsider his situation by extending his membership with the Conservation Commission for a few more months until June. Brian has been a very reliable conservation commissioner, and he's been on the board for a number of years. We're already down 1 member. As you know, Sean Wade had resigned last May, and Hillary's been very, very good to the commission by actually putting this onto the town website and asking if anyone would like to take that position up. We haven't had too much interest generated from that request. And I get a little concerned just to see the possibility perhaps of maybe losing another member and being down to 5 members rather than the 7. So I'm just here to kind of vouch for Brian and to ask the board to, put some thought into that. I know you will, and to help the commission to be able to continue operating smoothly and effectively.
Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak on behalf? Tim, are you on for this purpose, or you just enjoying the show?
I'm just enjoying myself.
Okay. Okay. I'm not opposed to extending it to June if we're down. If his intention is to move back, I would think he should be able to find a place by June to move back to Bellingham. If that's his intention. But I don't know if we can really vote on it tonight, because we know Mr. Connor will
It was
always say
4-1
no.
vote, and I would be opposed just for the same reason I've been opposed for 12 years.
Yeah, and that's
I would be for it, so but I don't know if
The
2-1
2 to
we're
1
comfortable with
meets
it.
February 7th.
Yeah.
Would we haven't replaced him, would the board be acceptable to keeping this in place until February 7th?
I am.
Yes.
Yeah.
If they're not meeting, it's a moot point.
Yeah, well, I believe they meet the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays of the month, so.
The 7th is after the.
Yeah.
But you get around it.
So he hasn't been removed, so theoretically he could continue to serve. I know Mr. Connor philosophically opposes this, so we'll have it on the agenda again, February 7th, and.
And I do think that if we give the 6-month extension, that's fine, but if by that point he has not found other residents in town, then at that point we really need to think about.
So he
not
would
extending.
continue to serve until February 7th, and then when the board has 4 members here, they'll be able to take the matter up again.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you,
Ann.
Ann.
Thank you.
Okay, any new business?
Yeah, we had
We have to do all
items
the
yet?
other business.
business.
Yeah, we do, don't we?
We didn't do yet.
Yeah, you've done acceptance of gifts and grants, and you've got a great list there that Mary has put together. Any questions on any of these?
No, it all
I'm
seems
sorry. I read
straightforward.
through it earlier.
Okay, so it would require. a vote of the
I
board.
move that the board
She
of
has a- yeah.
selectmen accept the gifts and grants as listed herein with said expenditures to be under the direction of the parties noted.
Second.
Any just further discussion? None. To vote?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. 3-0, motion carries.
Okay, you've got the opera projects. Mary went through that last time, the process that we have. We have a nice committee in place, and we got 3 projects here. One being that it's really, as you know, the award was considerable. It's allowing us to move forward with our design work for the PFAS, $450,000 there that we'd otherwise be looking at, raising rates or trying to find that money somewhere else. So certainly it works out well. Esther's funding is there for her continued good work, and then $10,000 for miscellaneous COVID-related expenses. So again, that would require a vote of the board.
Would like to take a motion?
Motion to approve the noted ARPA projects.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? None. Call for a vote.
Aye.
Aye. 3-0, motion carries.
Everybody's got the
Yep,
next
can
one.
I have a motion to open the annual town meeting warrant with a close date of Friday, February 25th?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Connor on the motion, Mrs. Grant on the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All 3-0. All right, next is need to vote on the December 6th, 20th, and 22nd minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from December 6th, 20th, and 22nd as prepared by our wonderful Hillary.
Second, except for the wonderful.
You're such a jerk, Michael.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any
You
further
can put that in the
discussion?
minutes, too.
None, hearing none. I move for a vote.
Aye.
All right, 3-0.
All right, and then I have one final permit that just, we didn't have on the December 20th meeting. And it's for a bulk storage license for 466, 468, and 470 Hartford Ave. It's 3 parcels, one permit for a landscaping company, and he is up to date with his
So
real estate.
where
taxes.
is this?
466, 468.
Yeah, where is it?
I don't know.
Tim's here.
I asked the same question. Hang on.
Yeah, because
I'm trying to think, where is this bulk storage? Is this across from the cemetery, which there used to be mulch there many years ago?
No. What's the name on it, Hillary? What's,
Joe D Landscaping.
okay, so it's across the street from Cumberland Farms, in between the car dealer.
It's that yellow house
Oh,
we
I know
just
which one
took
it
down,
is.
the
Okay.
red house with the septic
Okay.
thing too.
All right.
Yeah.
And they have little statues, monuments all
Yes.
up front.
Yep.
Yep,
Thank
okay.
thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Yep.
Motion to approve the bulk storage permit.
Second.
First and second, Mr. Connors. Oh, getting late.
Mrs. Grant.
Grant, I was gonna say something else. Mrs. McNulty, but I didn't. I'm sorry.
Hey, that's not an insult.
No, I know it's
He's
not.
awesome.
It's just the name wrong. All
Aye.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried, 3-0.
Help you out there.
Thank you all.
Town administrator's report.
We've covered 2 out of the 3 items. The lone item is the town planner vacancy. I know the board's up to date on this. We've been pursuing a replacement for our town planner, Jim Cup, with big shoes to fill, and we just couldn't find the right fit. So I had a lot of conversations with Jim. Jim wants to continue on with the services he's providing. As you know, he's a town planner in another community. He's servicing us virtually, attending all the planning meetings, zoning meetings. He does come up on occasion. He was there for a meeting on a Saturday morning a couple of months ago. Still works closely with Tim, works closely with me virtually. It's getting the job done. We're thinking what we'd like to do is appoint an assistant town planner, zoning enforcement officer, and that individual we're recommending is Amy Sutherland, who's been with us for a couple of years, been doing land use work for about 20 years in different communities all around the area. We can bring her on. I know Tim and Jim feel that would work out very nicely in that office. She's excited about it, and financially we can make it work within that planning budget. So I think it's a great opportunity for someone that certainly has earned an opportunity to step in a position like that. You've got a copy of Amy's resume. She has a master's degree, a bachelor's degree, and again, has a tremendous amount of work, part-time work in many communities in the area in this field. So I think she'd work out extremely well, and I have appointed her to the position of assistant planner, and it would require the board's ratification.
Is this a full-time position?
It is she is working full-time now as an administrative assistant in that office, so she would slide over, assume different responsibilities than what she has right now.
And the other responsibilities in the other towns, would those continue, or are they?
She is looking at curtailing several of those, cutting back. She is somebody that does a lot of juggling, and she's looking forward to doing less and focusing more on Bellingham.
That's great. No, that's really good news. Thank you, Dennis.
Motion to approve the ratify the appointment of Amy Sutherland.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? None. I call for a vote.
Aye.
3-0, motion carries. That's fantastic. Great job, Dennis. Thank you.
Tim, anything I forgot that we need to bring up? I'm seeing you. Okay,
Nope,
good.
You pretty much covered it. Yep.
Yeah, Tim and I often talk during the day, and I tell him I'm going to bring up something, and then maybe it slips my mind, but I think we got it all tonight.
Okay, excellent. All right.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, I'm looking to you.
Just making sure we
First
didn't
and
do
a
anything
second.
else.
I don't think anyone's opposed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you for attending.